And I like to, same thing, work with myself and my clients about finding equanimity and finding that calm, and which is what you're talking about, going
Yeah.
inside and finding that calm amid the chaos, because there is so much and it's so easy to get pulled into that and get off kilter, get off path, just follow some crazy thing and just
Yes.
get sucked into the negativity, when if you're following your inner compass and your inner guide and you're grounded, you will be much better off, because then you can also help support others.
Absolutely. And that's where it starts. I mean, you really couldn't have articulated it any better, right? It's like our truth, the truth of who we are, the truth of existence, which is love, unconditional love, transcends constructs.
Alrighty, it is time to stop hitting snooze and awaken to a life worth being, the fun and inspiring podcast that dives deep into what makes life truly fulfilling. I'm your host, Sue Willoughby, a self-proclaimed badass transformational life coach for women over 40. Join me as I explore the extraordinary journeys of ordinary people who've transformed their lives from the inside out. Tune in weekly to uncover the secrets to smashing through your perceived limits and creating a life that's not just well lived, but totally worth being. Welcome back to another episode of A Life Worth Being. I'm your host, Sue Willoughby, and joining me today is the radiant Jennifer Spor. She's a CEO, best-selling author, spiritual mentor, and host of the podcast, Path of the Awakened Heart. After climbing the corporate ladder and checking all of the boxes of so-called success, Jennifer found herself unfulfilled and yearning for something deeper, and I can totally relate to that. Her dark night of soul led to a powerful spiritual awakening and a mission to help others do the same. Now, as a channel and multidimensional healer, she empowers spiritual visionaries to align with their soul's purpose, live authentically, and bring their highest gifts to the world. So let's get ready for a soul-stirring conversation that is all heart and very high frequency. Jennifer, hello and welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have you on today.
Thank you so much, Sue. I'm just so happy to be here with you and to be connected with you. And thank you so much for the warm welcome, too. As you were speaking, I got the goosebumps, which
Oh,
is
I like that. I'm getting goosebumps too.
yeah, yeah.
I love that. I love getting goosebumps. Yeah, I definitely feel your frequency and your energy and all of that. So I'm happy to bring that to my listeners. Let's just jump in. I don't know where you want to start. If you want to talk about that, that dark night, that dark time that led you to where you are now, or whatever you feel is like a really good jumping off point, I'm all in. So go for it.
Yeah, it feels like it would be a great place to start in terms of what was probably the initial catalyst, right, for
Yeah.
me changing my life because none of that really happened until I was 40. And I'm just about to have my 51st birthday in the next.
Happy pre-birthday.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm just about to turn 51 and yeah, none of this really came about. I mean, like really front and forward until I turned 40. So I was probably in my late 30s and as you said in the introduction that was so warm, I had checked all those boxes off the list of what traditional society teaches us that it means to achieve success. And I really loved my work for a long time. I worked in retail for probably like 23, 24 years and started when I was 19. Really loved it, worked my way up, had at the end of my career, I was a director overseeing store operations for a large retail company at the time. And I loved it. And then I reached this space where I felt like, I wasn't feeling as challenged. And I also was feeling like it was more difficult to feel like I was making a difference. So no matter where I was at any season of my life, I've always been someone who has had to sincerely believe in whatever work or job or whatever it is I choose to pursue, right? So when I started not feeling that as much anymore, that's really when I like to say the fog started to lift, and I started wondering, like, what's next? When I really thought there wouldn't be anything next, like for a long time I thought I would just be following this chronological path that, again, we're all told that we need to follow, right? You have a career, you find a partner, whatever, and retire after that at some point, and that's what I thought would happen. It was around that time, I didn't leave my career right away. What I did do, though, is immediately embarked on this journey of discovery. I mean, I could say rediscovery or discovery, but what I realized during that time is I really didn't know myself as well as I thought I did. I realized that most of my life was really centered around my career, because I was in a high level position where I had to be on, all the time. And when I wasn't working, I realized I was really just kind of going along with what everybody else, wanted to do. And so I thought, wow, okay, I know I'm a good person. I know I care about living true to myself and being sincere, but like, what's beyond that? What do I really desire, free of these constructs? And so that was when I started meditation, which was a huge catalyst to opening me up to really discovering more of the truth of who I was and what I was being called to. But it was about really another year and a half or 2 years after that, when my mom, at the time, she was living in Idaho and I was living in New Jersey, and she was diagnosed with terminal cancer. And so there was this period of time where I was flying back and forth a lot, trying to juggle all the demands and expectations of not only my professional life, but really trying to be there for my mom and help out with my family too. And there was this one moment that was really the catalyst that I remember as clear as day, which has been many years now. But I was sitting by my mom's bedside, and it was one of the last times I would see her. It was just a few days before she transitioned, and my phone started blowing up, from my work. There was an issue. Okay. And the universe was giving me probably like the 1 millionth opportunity to choose again, right? So I found myself just very present to that moment, looking at my phone, and what was happening there, and then looking over at my mom, understanding that this was probably the last time, or one of the last times, that I was going to see her tangibly, here. And that was it. That was the moment. Like, it was like this light switch flipped on. And I just said to myself in that moment, I'm done. Like, I'm done allowing myself to be stuck. I'm taking my power back. Sure, I'm still scared shitless, because I know what I know what that moment meant. It meant that, like, this is it. There's like no turning back. But my courage exceeded my fear in that moment, and that's what I teach a lot, and say a lot to people, is like, being fearless isn't about being without fear. It's about being conscious to it, being present to it, and consciously choosing to live in your truth anyways, and so that's what happened. It was that moment that was the beginning of the end. And it was probably, it took about another year, a little longer than that. But I ended up stepping down from my role, my career, because remote work culture wasn't a thing at the time. And when my mom died, I really wanted to move back out to Idaho to be closer to my remaining family. And so in order to do that, I had to make a decision to step down from my career. And I didn't even know at the time that I was going to do this work, have a podcast, coach people, do all of the things that I'm doing now. That happened after I made the move. I literally, like, rented my house out in New Jersey, packed up my car and headed out west. I was single at the time, drove across the country by myself, and then things just started unfolding after that. And that's often how it works. It's like, we don't have the entire path laid out before us. Our human minds wants that, right? Because we want to feel the comfort of the knowing, but it's really in the unknowing where the magic happens, where all of the expansion happens, and all of that unfolded after I made that move.
Yeah. Okay, we're done here. That was beautiful. Thank you. So much of that resonated with me from, my mom being old and sick and me not being in the same area. I was out in Seattle, she was in Atlanta. But that wasn't necessarily a catalyst like it was for you, but I do understand that, once you make those big decisions, that's the hardest thing, is making the decision. And the second hardest thing is, and I heard you say this as well, trusting the journey, trusting the universe, trusting the whatever, that things will come to you that that you are meant to have, the places that you're meant to be. You are meant to be back in Idaho. By the way, I love that solo road trip across country. I've been kind of itching to take a big road trip again myself. But yeah, all of those things. And I think it's really important. And like you said, you turned 40, now you're turning, 51. And, a lot of people ask me too, why do you think that midlife is that perfect time to flip the switch, to question things, to make a change in your life? And it's because it's kind of a natural progression. I think, though, a lot of women ignore that, or, like you said, are so wrapped up in their identities that they just don't know how to make that leap, right? And they're afraid. They're the fear thing and the imposter syndrome. I mean, I could go on and on and on, and I'm sure you could too. But tell me a little bit about when you bring your experience into your practice and how you help people. When we were talking before we started here, you were talking about being called to, and you are very in touch with your calling, and it sounds like, and tell me a little bit about how you listen to when you're being called to do something. Tell me a little bit about how that kind of comes to you.
Yeah, so to provide a little more background on how I got here, right? So it was after I made that decision to pack up my car, head out west. I always say that sounds like the lyrics of a country song because it
Totally.
so does, you know? But it was like after I got out here, I had stayed on with the company I was working with at the time in a consulting capacity, basically to help tie up loose ends on projects where I had been a stakeholder before. And I just felt very corporate-y just when I said that, Uh,
Stakeholder. I love it.
what
Yeah.
I realized during that time, I was having this tremendous spiritual awakening and this shift in consciousness, and I had invested in working with a lot of coaches, psychics, healers, people who were all amazing in their own right, supporting me on my path. What I was felt hard pressed to find at the time was someone who could actually relate to what I was experiencing and support me in integrating who I was becoming into my physical reality, right? Because as you know, when you make these big decisions, when you're really making big changes like that, it impacts every area of your life. And that was the moment that I realized, hey, that's me. Like I'm meant to do this work, right? So that was really when I realized, okay, I'm going to become an entrepreneur. I'm going to dedicate my life to a path of service and to helping others discover more of the truth of who they are and what they're being called to that aligns with them, right? I mean, really feeling that liberation and freedom to live expressed as who you truly are, not who you think you have to be or what you think you have to do to earn a living or be accepted in the world. And so I really embarked on that journey. That was when I decided to get into coaching. And I've always been intuitive. I've always been very energetically sensitive. And being as empathic as I am served me very well in my prior career too, because I've always been a people person, right? I can just zero in on people right away, uh, to kind of just see, where they're being called to, the higher path they're being called to, and what's holding them back from that, right? From living expressed as that. So I pretty much almost immediately began integrating that into my work with clients. And all of us, these gifts that I have are not, I mean, sure, they're special. Each one of us is special because each one of the 8 billion ish or so of us on the planet, right, are one of a kind. But everybody can tune into themselves at this level. It's just a matter of how conscious and focused you are and how much you desire to do so. So I've always had this gift for being able to tune in to people, to be able to see what's possible for someone before they can see that sometimes, which is, I think, a really important quality to have when you're looking to be mentored or guided or supported by someone on your path. Um, I feel like I'm going off on a bit of a
No, no,
tangent.
that's
Like, am I fully answering your question?
yeah. I mean, I sort of just tossed the ball
Yeah.
in your court and let you do what you wanted to with it. But yeah, I agree. And when you talked about letting people, having that intuitive awareness, first of all, because a lot of people squelch their intuition, I think, and it's you have to quiet your mind. And you talked about the meditation, and when you
Yes.
started meditation, that was the quieting piece of it. And I think a lot of people just, we're so in our heads, and that's why I work with horses in my coaching practice. And horses don't let you be in your head.
Yeah.
You got a 1,200-pound animal staring you in the face, and you're like, whoa, okay. They bring you into your body. You're, it's almost a requirement to be congruent and grounded and quiet, um, and be aware of what's going on with you spiritually, emotionally, physically, all at the same time. So all of those things have to sort of come into alignment, like you're saying, before that. So yes, having a coach that has that, intuition and can use that to guide someone who may not be at that point already and
Yeah.
won't have that understanding already. They need help to bring that out of them. Is that what I'm understanding from you?
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, this is the case for, the people that I tend to attract into my world are already on some type of spiritual journey or journey where they're focused on their growth and they're feeling called to something greater. But what you brought up about being in your body, right? And then I did mention meditation. That's the number one thing really on this journey of discovering more of the truth of who we are and living embodied as who we truly are is our lies in our ability to create that space, to be still, to be present in our bodies, and to be able to really tune in at a deeper level to that voice. We all have two voices essentially. One is the intuitive voice, the way that our soul guides us and speaks to us, and the other one is what I often refer to as our ego mind, but it's our human mind, right? And in large part, we've all been conditioned and taught to believe, right, that uh, there are only certain ways you can achieve success or live your life, and those constructs are all based from the mental space, right, from the
Mm.
human mind. And our human mind is amazing and very complex and intricate, and it absolutely serves a purpose. Otherwise, why would it be there? But when we allow our human mind to be the star of the show, essentially, we're making decisions from a very limited space because our human mind can only make decisions based upon environmental conditioning, what we've been taught, or from past experiences, when our intuition and our soul's guidance has the bigger picture, essentially, because we are this amazing eternal being having this human experience. We've had many human lives, many other lives as other species, and the just limitlessness of our existence could be easily a podcast episode on its own, right? But
Absolutely.
when you're tuning into that voice, that is the voice that's always going to guide you toward growth, toward whatever achieving success looks like for you, and always toward your expansion. Now, it can feel very scary to follow that voice at first, right? Because it's guiding you in on a new path. We're getting back into that realm of the unknown, like what I was sharing in my own story. But again, that goes back to your ability to be conscious to that and to be disciplined and devoted in making that decision to continue to move forward.
Yes, absolutely. You know, things that are out of the norm or out of our norm, I should say, that it's going to scare us, right? Because we do create these nice, safe little places called our comfort zone, and when we deviate from that, it's like, oh, I can't go there, right? But that's when stuff happens. It's right at that, right at that, at the edge of your comfort zone. Just take that other step, and you're going to be in a completely different place. But everybody thinks it's going to be a scary bad place. Like, what if and then the stories start to happen. Well, if I quit my job and if I move cross country, then this is going to happen and this and this. And then you got this whole long story that you've already created and you haven't even done anything. Right.
Well, and that's what happens with many people too, right?
Yeah.
They talk themselves right out of following where they're being guided. And intuitive development is something that I've taught for years, and I've taught just right from the basic levels of tuning into that intuitive voice, into more advanced techniques in channeling, and really tapping into our power as far as the healing technologies and other things, that abilities that exist within us, right? We are so very powerful.
Yes, we are. Our bodies can, most of the time, not most of the time, but sometimes your body's going to tell you when you are doing something that doesn't agree with you, whether you eat something, whether you're, running on empty, you're doing too much, your body's going to be like, hey, cut it out.
Mm-hmm.
Because you'll get sick, like I was doing some traveling and then I was, had a visitor, so all of these things. And then I got a really bad cold. My body was like, okay, you're done here. I don't know if you are familiar with human design at all.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
So I am a projector. I am
Okay.
not a generator. I do not have my own source of energy. So when I'm depleted, I am depleted. And I will be like in the mid sentence and I'll be like, I gotta go take a nap. Right. So I am really working hard to listen to that because I've acted my entire life as a generator
Yeah.
or as a manifesting generator, more so a generator where it's like, get the shit done, just do it, keep going, keep
Yeah.
going, keep going, keep going, right? And I'm like, and then when I found I found out I was a projector, I'm like, oh, what do I do now? Right now, what do I do? I'm like, that makes a lot of sense when I look back and I look at all those pieces.
Yeah.
And we can do a whole nother podcast on, and I've actually interviewed, human design specialists, but it it does make you look at things differently. And it's like, there's a reason, listen to your body, listen to your intuition, because it does know what is best for you. Tell your ego to take a little break, go have a smoke in the back and a cup of coffee and check out for a minute. Right.
And I'm a projector too. Yeah, I totally relate. Yep. I've been delving into the human design rabbit hole for, a few years. I'm haven't formally trained in it. I know a hell of a lot about it though.
I love it. I love it. And it totally makes sense. Yeah, it's great. So good. I'm glad you knew what I was talking about. You're gonna be like, what are you, crazy person?
No,
Uh,
completely.
So I want to shift gears here a little bit. Maybe it's shifting, maybe it's not shifting, but it's something that I know nothing about, but I'm curious about the Akashic Records.
Yeah.
You talk about it on your website, and we talked about it a little bit beforehand. And what are Akashic Records? Are these like, we all have records, birth records, death records, tax records, all these records. What are
Yeah.
Akashic Records?
Yeah, in the very simplest context, the
Mhm.
Akashic Records are like the library for your soul. So
Oh,
imagine an etheric library, right?
uh,
We have physical libraries, we have internet based libraries, Wikipedia, whatever. This is like that. It's the library for your soul. So I mentioned earlier in our conversation that we're this limitless being, this soul, essentially, this etheric being having this human experience right now. We've had many experiences, many lifetimes, many incarnations, and the Akashic Records hold all of those experiences. And within each one of those experiences, your records hold all of those individual experiences, right? So not only are they this amazing, limitless kind of cosmic library of information, but there is also a tremendous power to experience healing and shifts in consciousness when you're working within your records. It's really in all of my years now that I've been on this path, right? Which I've been consciously focused on this journey for over like probably 15 years now, right? The Akashic Records is one of the most direct paths to ascension. So when you're in a space, especially when you're in a space where you're ready for change, right? You're focused on growth, you're ready for expansion, and you're ready to shift, your life can change in even one session. I mean, they can be that powerful.
that is fascinating. So there's this big ethereal, right, library with all of our records in there. So if I went to the library and I checked out my record book, I could see all of the stuff, not me personally, but I'm just saying, right? All of the stuff, all the different past lives, all the whatever, all the experiences I've had. That's fascinating. How the heck do you access
Potential
those records?
and potential future versions of
Huge.
yourself as well, with it, which is limitless, right? Like
Yeah.
one of my favorite ways to work with clients in their records, or one of my favorite ways in general, right? Because I mean, as limitless as the Akashic Records are, understand that even they are a subset of all of creation. So I'm not trying to blow everyone's mind, but it is. It's
Too
like
late.
there are universes upon universes. Like it's really truly limitless. But anyways, one of my favorite ways to work with people, and I also teach the records to teach other people to work in their records, is to connect with future potential versions of themselves, right? So uh, as humans, it can feel overwhelming, especially when we have a big goal that we're inspired to achieve. And so it can be really fun and also really clarifying to work in your records to connect with that future version of yourself who has already achieved the thing that you're aspiring to achieve. You can literally connect with them and ask them all of the questions that you want to
Sounds a
ask.
little quantum leapish.
Absolutely.
I
Yes.
love it.
We are working in the quantum field.
I
Yes,
love it.
absolutely.
Yeah, that's cool. Very cool. Yeah, because there are, and I'm doing a thing right now where we're talking about that in terms of manifestation, right? Where it's already happened. You just need to
Yes.
close that gap between where you want to be because you're already there in another dimension or another whatever timeline or something, right? And there's a gap, and there are connections. You just need to learn to recognize them. Am I kind of talking, making sense here or no?
Yeah, absolutely. So past, present, and future are in of themselves constructs, human man-made constructs, right? Everything, to your point, has already happened or will happen or is happening in the now. Our power to create, our full power to create, exists by being fully present in our body right now and conscious to what we're saying, what we're doing, what we're feeling, what we're creating in that now moment.
Okay. I have to put my head back together.
I know. I mean, we could go in
I
a
love
lot of
it.
different directions, but it's powerful, right?
Yeah,
We are powerful. We are
I can talk about
powerful,
this
very
stuff
powerful.
all day long. I love it. I love it. I love it. So, that's cool. Uh, and you can teach people how to access their own records, or do they need to work with you to do this?
Yeah,
And
so I do work with clients privately, and I work in the Akashic Records with clients based upon whatever their unique path is, right? And
Mhm.
if it serves their highest good to work in their records, then we do that, absolutely. I do also teach the Akashic Records because in my own journey of really coming home to the Akashic Records, because it does feel like a homecoming. The Akashic Records aren't something that you kind of wake up one day and go, oh, yeah, let's invest in that. It calls to you. It kind of calls to you, and you feel drawn. You feel kind of something energetic that's calling you to them. And I was so passionate. I still am so passionate about really how learning the records have enhanced my own journey that I started teaching them. And so now I actually have a self-study course on my website for those who are interested in kind of working at their own pace to learn more about how to access their own records. I am actually also teaching the Akashic Records over a weekend this summer in June in Spokane, Washington, which is just about 20 minutes from where I live in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. And we go deep. We go deep, and you learn about how to access future versions of yourself. So future progressions, your past lives, how to heal yourself in your records, how to ask yourself the right questions to get the information, that you want to receive from your Akashic Records. It's pretty amazing. It is really.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Spokane's not that far from me. I'm just across the
Yeah,
state. I'm in
come join
Seattle.
us. It's on June 21st and 22nd, the day after the solstice. So energetically, the time is prime aligned. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. And I can put that in the show notes and we'll
Yeah,
talk about
sure.
that. So currently, given all of this information, what is your current focus with your clients and with your business? Um, can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, so currently I am really working with clients in more of a private capacity,
Mhm.
and I am hosting my podcast, Path of the Awakened Heart. And the core nature of my work has never really changed over the years. But right now, in the current climate that we're living in, I am most passionate and most driven about supporting people to learn to live more deeply embodied in their truth. So, to tap into that intuitive voice and to get really confident in following it and in integrating the truth of who they are into their physical life. Because I know you know this, and a lot of your listeners too. There's just a lot of chaos in the world. There's a lot of noise, and a lot of the societal constructs that we've been taught are literally the direct opposite of the nature of who we are as these amazing divine creator beings. So, my mission is to empower others, to help them to see their truth, to live their truth, because also there are many of us who are feeling called to create, to bring new creations, new ways of being and living in the world. Uh, and if we're too afraid to do that, right? Then how are things really going to change? So we're really living in a very transformational time right now, and it really is no longer a nice to have to follow your intuition. It really is becoming fundamental to our existence here.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And I like to, same thing, work with myself and my clients about finding equanimity and finding that calm, and which is what you're talking about, going
Yeah,
inside and finding that calm amid the chaos, because there is so much and it's so easy to get pulled into that and get, off path, get off kilter, get off path, just, follow some crazy thing and just
yes,
get sucked into the negativity, when if you're following your inner compass and your inner guide and you're grounded, you will be much better off, because then you can also help support others.
absolutely. And that's where it starts. I mean, you really couldn't have articulated it any better, right? It's like our truth, the truth of who we are, the truth of existence, which is love, unconditional love, transcends constructs. And there's so much to care about in the world, right? And what happens is we are passionate about changing the world, but we often get sucked into trying to make a difference within those constructs, when the constructs need to be busted through, need to be dissolved, need to be changed.
Yes, obliterate the constructs. That's
Yes.
that's that's our mission. We are out to make a T-shirt about that.
Yes.
This has been a beautiful conversation, and we could make a mini series out of all of this information and about you and your journey and how you're guiding, the people that work with you. If someone wants to get in touch with you, Jennifer, how is the best way that they can do that?
Yeah, thanks for asking. The best place to go is my website, which is jenniferspor.com. So for those, who are audibly tuning in, it's JenniferSpor. And you can check out my podcast, the info about the Akashic Records that we were talking about, other ways to work with me. And there's tons of free resources on there, guided meditations, and also other podcast guest appearances. So there's all kinds of great information to take in there.
I love that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time today. I feel very energetically connected with you, and we were talking about some of our other connection points. And now that I know you just live across the state, just over the border into Idaho, maybe we'll meet in real life at some point. I certainly hope so.
Yeah.
Jennifer, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate you. And to my listeners out there, thank you so much for listening today. And if you have found this helpful, reach out to Jennifer. Pass this podcast and this episode on to a friend. And as always, subscribe so you don't miss any of this amazing content. I have some incredible guests already that I've interviewed that are coming up in the future. So please tune in weekly, give us a good rating, and I will see you next week. Thank you for listening to today's episode of A Life Worth Being. I hope you found it fun and inspiring. And to avoid a bad case of FOMO, please be sure to click that subscribe button. If you love what you heard today, please share it with a friend, and then hop on over to your favorite podcast platform and return the love with a wonderful review and 5-star rating. It would truly mean the world to me. Be sure to follow me on Instagram and on my website, links below in the show notes. I appreciate you, and I will see you next week for more fresh insights on awakening a life worth being.